Step right up and join the most vibrant circus community in the world, circustalk.com. This is In Center Ring. I'm your host, Jonathan Lee Iverson. This empress of the circus skies has soared into the hearts of millions around the world. Standing on the shoulders of greats from circus past, she has blazed an impeccable trail for generations to come. In Center Ring presents Veronica Blair.
You are a fantastic aerialist, instructor, artist, now producer, and you and the man, people want you moderating stuff. I mean, I'm like, you're all over the place, and I'm just so proud of you. I mean, you're such a presence in the circus world, especially among African Americans and Black artists and people of color who are in this field. You're a fierce aerialist. I mean, let's just deal with the fact that you are the true talent. Ain't no token up there. You are for real. You got wings.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Jonathan. That's really, really sweet. I am definitely happy to be here. But yes, 14 years old, I grew up watching circus in San Francisco, California. In San Francisco, we have circus in the parks, and it is very much so a part of culture here in San Francisco. I grew up watching the San Francisco Mime Troupe. I grew up watching Make a Circus in the parks, and that was something that our family did every single summer. We would go to the park, we would watch the circus, we would take the workshop, and then we would take part in the second show, which Make a Circus had, that incorporated neighborhood children or children from the community into the show. So it was like a full, whole day event, like 3 to 5 hours playing in the park, being in the circus. And that was my real first exposure to circus arts.
When did you first get the spark? Did you see someone who looked like you? Did you see, what was it about? I think I want to get to, what was it about the aerial arts? Because I'm a coward. That's why I stay on the ground. People ask me, sir, you had the career. I'm like, no, I didn't do anything, Dave. I didn't do anything. I just got dressed up real pretty and ran my mouth. I mean, what was it about getting up there in the air?
I got into aerial before I even stumbled upon circus as a viable career option for my life. I saw this show called The Living Carousel. I think that's the name of it. And it was the most beautiful thing that I have ever seen. And I had, again, my family, we went to Make a Circus in the parks, but every single time Ringling Brothers came to the Cow Palace, we went to go see it. It was an event. And one year I saw this show called The Living Carousel, and it was the most beautiful thing. It had this beautiful scene of everyone had puppets with horses and animals just on the carousel. There were beautiful floats. And then all of a sudden the arena would go dark during the parade, and then all of these puppets and the whole parade would just light up, and there was this beautiful voice singing, and I believe that was your debut year.
Oh man! See, you're not supposed. You ain't gonna make me do an Oprah here. I'm not kidding.
I'm gonna flip it. I want to interview you now.
No.
But, that was probably. Visually, just circus wise, that show was just so stunning. And here in the middle of it all is this super tall chocolatey Black man with a dressed white baby face, and he's just singing his heart out. And there was something about that production that just, I don't know, it pulled at my heart. It was the ultimate display, of pageantry and just costume design and just well thought out choreography. So that was one of the earlier circus memories that stick out in my mind. So that when I did stumble upon the Make a Circus, I auditioned to be a teen apprentice in their teen apprentice program. When I did stumble across that advertisement for that, made my way to Circus Center in San Francisco, and saw people on the flying trapeze and saw people on the static trapeze and tumbling, and I just, there was a no-brainer. Like, it was just kind of like, I have all of that around me and I can like take part in it, and it was just like just the most amazing thing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh man. See, now I have to shrink my head now. I have to shrink my head now. Oh, and that show was beautiful. Oh man, that warms my heart, because that really was my all-time Living Carousel. Of all the shows I did with the Ringling Brothers, that was my all-time favorite. I mean, it just was the perfect show, and I'm just so touched that, I mean, my goodness, wow, over 20 years later, and you know, I still hear compliments about the show. It was a brilliant show, and I'm glad, you know, that tall, dipped in chocolate young man made an impression on you, young lady. So you get into, what is it, Make Circus, and so I'm figuring the training is pretty intense there, because I was reading your bio and looking at who you were studying with and things like that. I was like, wow, okay, all right. I was like, all right. I said, you know, tell us about these fantastic teachers of yours who really, you know, gave you that solid foundation.
Wow. I had some fantastic teachers and mentors. From my first mentor was a woman named Paoli Lacey, who's a clown, and she kind of took me under her wings, and she just was like, Veronica Blair, your name is fabulous. Veronica Blair, that's it. You're a star. And she always made it a point to say my whole name, Veronica Blair. And she was really, really extremely instrumental in helping me cultivate some confidence when I was a youngster. And after that, it was Sarah Moore, another clown, another female clown. She was also a clown on Ringling. And she was the one that gave me my first aerial job at 17. It was just her. She had a vision for a show, and she saw me in the role as an aerialist, as a fairy godmother. And she was just like, it's got to be you. And I followed her. I followed her dream. I followed her vision. And that actually led me to my career. And as a professional, Pamela Hernandez, who was one half of the duo Satin, who performed on Ringling for 10 years. They performed, her and her cousin, Denise Aubry, they performed on a star-shaped cradle. And I think the act debuted in 1983. I ended up seeing Pamela Hernandez on the HBO special of the Universal Circus back in 1998. And I'd never seen a Black woman on trapeze before. And so I found their address to the circus, and I just wrote her a bunch of letters, and eventually she got the letters and she started to write me back. And so she's still my mentor. We're still very good friends. I've had some incredible people guide me. My tissue coach, Gerard Fasoli, from Connect in France, he was the person that kind of, in a very French way, took me under his wing and just taught me so much. He was just kind of like, he would say things like, okay, Veronica, like, if you're up there struggling, I don't want to watch you. He would say things like that. And he would say things like, you know, you have to make the decision whether you want to be an athlete or if you want to be an artist. Now, those are two different things. Which made me really question my career at the time, and make me and I realized that, hey, I actually want to be an artist. Like, there's some things I want to say here, because before then I was just going from act to act, and I was having a good time, but I was running my body into the ground, and constantly switching acts just didn't enable me to, like, I wasn't able to kind of build a name for myself, because I was over here and over there, and I had this partner and I had that partner. So I decided to become an artist, you know. So I've had some amazing people in my life, and I've been very fortunate for all the help.
Well, I love that. Like, well, on top of that, I want to kind of go back. Did you have like an athletic pedigree before you entered into your circus education?
None at all. I mean, kind of like just culturally and traditionally, like just, Black kids, we flip, we tumble. Like it's,
Yeah.
we kind of get outside and we play and we can see who can do the splits and who can do cartwheels and things like that. If there's a mattress, if someone throws out an old mattress, they don't put it on the street.
Right.
It gets put on the street to be collected, but the kids, we take it and we pile them up, and then we teach each other how to do backflips and flick flacks and things like that. So, even when I went into audition for the Teen Apprentice program with Make a Circus, I was asked to do some acrobatics, and I could do the cartwheels and the forward rolls and hula hooping and all that stuff. And they were like, okay, we'll take her. But I didn't really have any background
Right.
in acrobatics.
Which is very organic.
Yeah, it was very organic. And it was because of that play that when I joined circus, when I started with Make a Circus and eventually started to train with Louis at Circus Center, I wanted to be an acrobat. I wanted to do hoop diving. Louis had me sitting at the pole for like an hour a day, just doing nothing but climbing the pole. So I really thought in my mind that I was going to be an acrobat, not an aerialist. So the only acrobatic training that I have is my time training with Make a Circus and training with Master Louis at Circus Center.
Which isn't bad at all, honestly. I mean, listen, I've always had so much respect for the aerialist body. Speaking of the living carousel, my dressing roommate was the wonderful Mark David. If you probably remember his act, it was a single trapeze act. He would catch himself by his heels. The dude was amazing. And he taught me so much about professionalism, about being consistent, being conditioned. I applied it to my singing, but the principles were the same. Very old school type of stuff he would, just share with me. And I remember realizing how incredibly strong he was. I mean, he was like a Ken doll. And most aerialists aren't, they're not walking around with muscles bulging out or whatever, but your core is like unbelievable. And I learned that sort of the hard way because, people were climbing the web and they say, yeah, you go and climb. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I went over there. I couldn't get off the ground. I was like, And that's when I really knew my place. How much of that training and how much of that confidence building has held you in good state as you've moved along in your career, as you progress, as you would start working in different shows and things like that. I mean, how much of that did you pull from when you had to deal with, all of the major challenges that come with being an artist?
I think it's a combination, right? There's the external. So I had these people. I had Paoli Lacey. I had Jared Fasoli. I had Lenorma. I had some women that I worked with on Universal Circus, Amira Diamond, Margot Porter, showing me examples of how to be consistent and what it's like to be a show person. There's this external thing happening, but there does come a point where the internal needs to rise up, so to speak, and kind of match what is happening on the outside. Because us as artists, as performers, we are taught, we're trained, we're in show business, and we have to have that persona, that outside persona. We have to exude confidence. But in some cases, some of the times, a lot of performers don't have it inside. And so that, for me, developed, I think that developed over time. And anytime I was approached or presented with adversity, I've had the mentors, I've had the friends that I could call and say, this happened to me. How did you deal with it? A little bit. I think it's just a combination of having those people that lift you up, that external influence, but also you yourself having that internal confidence, and kind of realizing that, hey, you know, like in my case, there were people that came before me that were way worse off than I was. They made it possible for me to be here. They're rooting for me. A, I don't want to let them down. And B, I know that I can push this further. I haven't even lived up to my potential yet. So I'm going to keep going.
I've always been curious about, you know, just building your body to do what you do, and then sustaining it. You know, I mean, what is that process? What is that process like of creating the aerialist body and working to the standard that you would have for yourself?
Ooh, it's something that it's interesting, because you, like, when you're young, when you're 18, 19, 20, your body is more malleable, it's pliable, it's you have the ability to cultivate, you can do more tricks, you know, and you're so energetic. But as time goes on, and your body begins to tell you in subtle ways no, then you have to become more of a true performer, more of a true artist. And I think keeping my body in shape, it is what it is. There's the 10 pull-ups, the 10 leg lifts that, you know, every aerialist should be able to do, and the ability to push and to pull to kind of balance out the shoulders. And then of course there's the act maintenance, you know. Back when I first started, you just really needed the one act, and you perfected the one act and you performed it all over. But nowadays aerialists have to have at least 2 or 3. Hopefully you have a ground act and then 2 very different aerial acts. So it's a little bit more complicated now, but it's keeping yourself in shape is, in the gym, is like really half of it. You want to keep nowadays I'm going to say plural, your acts in shape. So you make sure that you're training. Like I have a tissue act, and I have a straps act, and I have varied versions of like each of these acts. And keeping yourself in shape nowadays is more just like, okay, I have a corporate job and they want something fast, with dynamic, with spinning and flair. So I'm gonna train that act. I'm gonna do a lot of spinning. I'm gonna wear my friend's dress, and I'm gonna present that act. Oh, and this week I'm gonna do Universal Circus. They want to do Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So okay, I need to now prepare my large scale tinted show act, which is going to include more flying and covering more area and making bigger movements. So keeping yourself in aerial shape is like nowadays it's really being able to tailor to the variety of like gigs that you would get, you know, honestly.
So I'd love to hear about your teaching career. You know, especially at the conservatory, what is that like? Because I know, like, you playing humble, but I remember when we went there, and it was like, first of all, you are the star over there, and when we went in there, you are the star over there. Because I remember people, oh, Veronica, Veronica. I mean, I was like, wow, okay.
No, I just think they wanted to meet you, and they were like, oh, Veronica.
Yeah, right.
Introduce me.
No, I noticed it. I said, wow, this is wonderful. You really are an intricate part of that place. But really, please, you know, give us an insight to your approach as an instructor. What do you pour into your students? What do you how do you, you know, craft in accordance to the particular abilities that you're presented with?
I love history. I want to know why things work the way that they do. I want to know why is this building still standing here? It's obviously was made like a century ago, and why are there condos next to it, you know, modern condos? Like, I'm so curious about things. And I think when I instruct people, I like to give people a little bit of what I didn't have sometimes. Like, I want people to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and the meaning behind it. And if I can explain those things to them in a way that they can understand, they can interpret it for themselves. So when I'm teaching aerial arts, or when I'm working with the youth circus, yeah, that's always paramount. It's paramount to me that you're not gonna just do these splits, but you're gonna understand that, you know, your hips, your pelvic bones need to be lined up in a certain way, and the rotation in your hips. And why? Because guess what? Your hips are not like that person over here across the room that you're comparing yourself to. Your hips are like, they're yours. So this is gonna be your approach to this. To aerial, it's just like, okay, you want to do a triple star drop, or you want to do a quadruple star drop, or you want to do a wheel down. Let's start with a single star, and let's help you get that body position, so then we can do a double, and then the triple, and then after that, sky's the limit. So there's always there's this need for me to to really go above and beyond to help people in their journey, like regardless of like whether I'm teaching them how to do circus arts or aerial arts, or whether it's to help them just dig a little bit deeper into the past, like what I'm doing with the Uncle Junior project. It's to know why you're doing something, and to know the history behind something is so important for moving forward. So
did you have those teachers who, in fact, you know, could not respect, this is her aesthetic, this is her body, you know, but rather try to twist and turn you into some Russian acrobat or something?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, from when I was a teenager. Yeah, I was always there was always comments about my bottom, about my butt, poking, grabbing, and you know, in my community, my butt is nothing. Like, for us, my butt is like laughable. It's hysterical. So, but for people that are but for some coaches that I had, it was you know, like because of their own ideas of Black women's bodies, or whatever they had in their head, it was just kind of like that's all they could see. And so I did, and these coaches, you know, were amazing. They are amazing people, and I love them so much. And I actually still would, now that I know better, I still would go and train with them. But there definitely was, you know, a lot of times where, a few times where I was told that, you know, your butt is too big, you can't do a handstand. And that definitely, like, that I'm still like, I just decided this year during the pandemic that I'm gonna start working on my handstands again, because that really affected me. You know, it affected me to hear that my butt was too big and I couldn't do it, and so that's why I couldn't do a handstand. I was approached. I did this duo act called Ribbon in the Sky with my partner Jean-Claude Belmont for a couple of years in Universal Circus. And I met this amazing woman and coach, but her introduction to me was like, "Hi, Veronica, like, I loved your act. You did an amazing job, but you look like your partner." And I think that was, she was referring to my broad shoulders,
Wow.
kind of V-shaped back. And a lot of aerialists have this, like, they have broad shoulders, but they have like that kind of sexy V-shaped back. But I think for her, she was basically saying me and my partner were like twinsies. So then we started to work together, and the way that we worked together, she began to change my body, and insinuated that I needed more of a Eurocentric line in order to be beautiful or to be presentable on stage. And so I did. I trained with her for a year, and again, amazing coach. Very loving, very sweet. But I was, on a low carb diet. I wasn't eating properly.
Mm.
I have some photos where my ribs are like protruding from my costume, and it just that stuck with me as a young performer, and then as a young adult, because even though I had finished training with these people, I still was carrying that with me mentally when I would go to the gym, and it really kind of messed with my perception of my body and how I viewed myself, because I was viewing myself through the lens of a Eastern European white woman, So it's that can be, really tricky when you are young and you are a person of color and you want to do your best and you're hungry, and you have a coach that is just like, okay, well, who you are is not good enough. Let me help you. And the way that they're helping you is like by completely changing your body composition, which is necessary for some things, but literally changing you into something that your body can't sustain it can be a little dangerous.
How do you dig your way out of that? Like, how do you come back to a place where you accept you and you realize, that's not necessary for you? How do you come to a place of being a true and authentic artist? Really, because that's what we're coming back down to, right? Your own humanity, your own self-expression, because this goes deeper than lines and body index and weight. This is really about identity. And so I'm curious to know, like, how did you rescue yourself, or have you?
Wow, it was, I think I took a step back from circus, actively looking for work on the big stage. And I started to teach and perform locally around the San Francisco area, and then just kind of take working with people that I really, really liked for a while. And it was hard because performing at a very high level, and just doing these things to your body, like stretching your oversplits, like with someone pushing you down, and I was constantly training. So in my case, I was doing a 10:30 show in the morning, which was like 2 hours. Then I would have like a little snack, and then I would train for 3 hours, have a low carb like meal of like chicken and salad, or like fat free, like chicken soup that had all the fat scraped off of it. And then I would do the second show, warm up again and do that second show. And I was doing that for like 5 years. My body, because of the lack of nutrition, first off, my body did not recover from the stress. Traveling like that, Jonathan, as you know, it sends your body into this high kind of stress mode, because you're up on your feet, you're up early morning doing television, then you do the shows, and then you do another interview, and then you have whatever maintenance or whatever meetings in between, and then you have another show, and then you get back to your hotel or your trailer at 11:30, 12, and then you have to unwind from all that, and then you sleep. And then after so many years of that, it's hard for you to get back into the, like, I guess, normal life. And so I had accumulated quite a bit of that in my body, and like injuries that I kind of took care of but didn't really take care of. Those were nagging. Had like 4 or 5 ribs out of place. The left side of my neck was starting to develop arthritis, and like I'm 25, so I took a step back, and I I started to really, and that was soul searching. I really started to look at my career, my beliefs, where they were then, where they are now, all of that. That it's very tricky. It's becoming an artist means that a true artist is meaning that you are completely okay with
Mm.
who you are, and that and like it's like you're almost naked on stage. It's like
Yes.
instead of pressing your hair and putting in extensions, picking your hair out in its natural state and walking on stage and doing a beautiful act with your brown skin, with your afro, and showing and just having pride in that and not hiding it, and showing people that your form and your skin and your hair and everything that make you as a person is beautiful, is acceptable. So it's I think, speaking, I'm a Black woman, so it's just speaking as a Black woman, that's what it was about for me. And physically, figuring out what it is that my body needs specifically to get it to a point to where it's fully, that it functions the way that I want it, and so that I can get the lines, and so that I can get the splits, because just the traditional methods weren't really working with my body type. So, and that was a lot of research as well. So it's a big process.
Well, anybody who wants their story told, it's your responsibility to tell it. So please take us into your imagining, your conceiving of the Uncle Junior project and bringing it to this point.
I heard that a man named Uncle Junior died, but I didn't know who he was.
Gunther, he got the whip, be like Clyde Beatty with the gun on the side, the blank gun.
The time that Junior started performing, the audiences were still very much segregated.
People kept talking about what a loss it was to our community, and I didn't understand why, but I wanted to find out. And that was the beginning of my journey. I've talked to ex-performers, historians, and professors.
He confronted any fears that he had in himself. Fears of the animals, fears of failure, fear of this audience who was cheering very often for him to die inside the cage.
I don't think so much of him. You hurry up and do what I tell you. Oh, he couldn't even train animal crackers.
Some people would throw pop balls at and through the steel bars. He said I would have to stand there and take it, and with my smile, as if I didn't understand what was going on. But it hurt nonetheless.
Yes. So I started the Uncle Junior Project 10 years ago, and I just wanted stories of people that I knew existed. I just wanted to get those stories told. I love to talk to people. I love to ask questions. I love to listen. Again, I love history. And when Emmanuel Junior Ruffin died, the same year he got inducted into the Ring of Fame in Sarasota, I became really curious about him, and I realized that I actually knew him, and I had the opportunity to talk with him, to get to know him and ask questions and listen. And I didn't do that. I didn't take advantage of it because simply no one had taken the time to explain to me who he was, why he was so important and his significance in circus. And so from that moment, I just wanted to make sure that as much as possible to highlight people that are living and that can tell their stories instead of celebrating them after death, because I really feel like I missed out. It became like imperative for me to do that. And I knew that, initially I just wanted to take a video camera, and I was working with Universal Circus. I was back and forth with them, and I had friends that were retiring and transitioning away from circus, and I was like, oh gosh, I need to get their stories like quickly. So I was just going to take a video camera. I was going to go to Best Buy or something, and then I was like, no, like I really want to show them in full color. And that's how the idea expanded. So, you know, from just this kind of desperation of like, okay, like instead of putting these stories in a history book, let's just get them on video. Let's upload these videos to YouTube. And then it turned into, no, we got to get them in action. We got to get them in vibrant color. We got to get their facial expressions. And then it turned into just like an exhibition. I did a 3-month exhibition on Blacks in American circus in San Francisco. This woman, Mayor London Breach, she's now currently the mayor of San Francisco. I met her at a community meeting, introduced myself, and she became very intrigued. And she was actually instrumental in getting me that exhibition. I have been invited to the Smithsonian. So like, it literally was, this project evolved from my need to make sure that people were able to get their stories told, and not by anyone else, but tell their stories themselves. And it's been like a wild ride. And it just, it changed and morphed into more than just me getting these interview stories, like leading a panel at the Smithsonian and teaching at the circus school there. And now to finally releasing these documentaries to the public. I have an amazing team who is like 100% behind me. It's so touching. Like each editor, person that I work with, they have their own interpretation of what they're seeing, and they're really taking the time to get to know the people that have been interviewed and like really craft their stories in these beautiful documentaries. So 10 years has, I was kind of down on myself about it at first, but it took 10 years. Like it needed to take 10 years. Right. It needed to take 10 years.
Please take us through the process of, you know, okay, I have this idea, I'm going to pursue it, I'm going to do this thing. And how did you collect the necessary pieces as you went along?
Man, it's just like I get these ideas, but it's just like, but I do this though. It's like joining the circus. It's like starting this project. It's like studying Japanese. It's like everything. I just get like so into things. So it's it just started. I'm gonna get my little handy cam. It started from there, and I was talking to a friend of mine, Paul, and I said, "Do you want to make like some features about Black people in circus?" And then he was like, yeah. And then I had a 2-man camera crew, Paul and Michael. And then from there, I met the founder's son of the San Francisco Black Film Festival. And he was like, that sounds cool. Do you have a trailer? I'll show it. And then the trailer was being shown. And then I was on a contract in Atlantic City. And it wasn't the best contract in the world. But what happened was there was a guy named Charles who just graduated from Temple University. And he was there filming for a reality television show. And then I told him about the idea, and he was like, I want to work on this. This is interesting. And then I spent a couple months in New Jersey and New York and Philadelphia filming with Charles. And it just kept snowballing and going. And it's just because I kept talking about it. I was doing fundraisers for it in the San Francisco Bay Area, at Kinetic Arts Center in Oakland, at Circus Center in San Francisco. And so people here already knew about it. And I met London Breed at a community meeting, and she was like, this is interesting. You want to do an exhibition? And I was like, sure. But I wasn't expecting it to be as large scale as it was. It just like, I'm going to cut this short, but I was just talking about it, and it was something that was on my heart. And as people say, the first idea is usually the best idea. And I just stuck with it, and I got to do so many amazing things because of it, you know?
Love it. I would love to know, when did you know, boy, I am good, like artistically? When was that moment for you? You know, when was that proud moment for you when you knew, I got this down. I'm Queen Bee up in here. This is my thing. I know myself.
2 years ago. 2 years ago. And let me tell you why. And I'm not even joking, but it was 2 years ago. I've been performing all this time, and I know what I offer, and I know what I bring to the table as a performer. Yeah, I know how I present myself, but personally, from the inside, where I watched a video, and aerialists are notorious for this. We watch videos of ourselves and we're like, no, delete. It was like 2 years ago where I was watching a video of myself, and I felt satisfied. This is exactly what I wanted to say. This is exactly how I wanted to present the work that I wanted to present at the time. And I thought, like, was there anything that I would have done differently? No. You stumbled a little bit there. Can you make that better? Sure, I can make that better the next time. And it was just kind of like finally this full kind of like, and that came with the understanding of, like, not the understanding, but I felt like I really felt like an artist. And I really felt like I had a concept that I was able to bring to life, and it was understood. Because it's okay if the audience doesn't understand, but it was understood. It was perceived in the way that I wanted it to be perceived by the audience. And that to me is a success, like as an artist, as a director. So yeah. But to my credit, I'll give myself credit. Like, I'm always, again, I know what I do on stage. Like, I know, you know, I like the dresses. I like the pageantry of the circus. I like the glitz and the glam.
You wear it well. I've seen the
yeah.
The camera is good to you.
yeah. So that's always, you know, that's always been my thing. It is still my thing. But like, where I finally just was like, oh yes. yes.
Where do you envision yourself in the next year or so? I don't want to go too far, but where do you envision yourself? Because now you have this wonderful production of Uncle Junior. It is out, and you're releasing it, and you're growing as a personality in this virtual world. And you know, are you still going to be performing? I mean, what are your challenges now that we've been, you know, condemned to our homes due to this pandemic? How does an aerialist keep her body fit?
Yeah. I'm getting my personal trainer certification right now. So I actually am just working, like crafting my own like workouts and circus related workouts to eventually start to teach online. Creatively, I am working with this fence in the park, which sounds weird, but there's this 3-tier fence, and I'm just walking on it and doing like simple acrobatics and figuring out how to do splits and swing and dance on it. And I'm doing that as a creative outlet for myself, something to hang on, something to do, right? In the next year, with the release of the Uncle Junior project, I plan on releasing quite a few of the documentaries this year. So it'll be like one every, at first I was saying 21 days, but it looks like there's going to be one like every 2 weeks initially, and then we will start to pace them off. So staying with the Uncle Junior project, me personally as an artist, I would like to get back into the gym and to train and to continue to develop my acts that I have. I feel like a lot of things that I want to express on the apparatus. So I really actually just want to get back into the gym, not necessarily perform. Of course I want to perform, but right now I'm being called back to creation, so to speak. And then once we open back up, I would love to be able to present the work to an audience. And yeah, that's what I see for myself in the next year.
Do you foresee yourself creating more documentaries?
Oh, don't say that. Don't ask that. Maybe. I'm gonna focus on Uncle Junior for now, and myself as an artist, developing myself as an artist. There's just it feels like there's some more in there that I want to say. So I'm gonna focus on those two things for now, and then in the future, who knows? Who knows?
I love it. Well, you are the fly girl, Veronica Blair. Up, up, and away.
The circus is a vast international community, and there's only one place to connect for jobs, events, the latest news, and so much more. circustalk.com. Join today.